famous restaurant in the heart of the city quickly became the center of controversy when the manager decided to kick Barron Trump out because of his MAGA hat. This bold move sparked division among the public, but what happened next left everyone stunned. Barron didn't react the way anyone expected. Instead, he did something unimaginable, turning a tense situation into an event the whole city would never forget. Could this incident change the way we view empathy and dialogue? Keep following the story, as the next twist will leave you more surprised than ever. If you enjoy inspiring content like this, be sure to subscribe to our channel today. It was a beautiful, sunny afternoon in Los Angeles, the kind of weather that invites you to take your time and enjoy the day. Barron, now a teenager, had just finished a quiet morning reading and decided to treat himself to lunch at Harborview Bistro, a renowned restaurant known for its elegant and unique atmosphere. It was the kind of place where every table seemed to tell a story, from celebrities to CEOs and influencers. Barron had been there before and always loved the peaceful vibe and impeccable service. As he walked through the glass doors, Barron stood out, not just for his tall frame, but for the bright red MAGA hat he wore with ease, as if it was an integral part of who he was. It wasn't meant to provoke, but simply to express his personality. The hostess, a woman in her 30s with a polite demeanor, led him to a corner table. The restaurant was quiet. A few diners sipped wine and conversed softly. Barron opened the menu, his calm gaze skimming over the familiar dishes. At first, he didn't notice the eyes around him. A man at the next table nudged his companion, and a few servers at the bar whispered. Then the manager appeared. A man in his 40s, impeccably dressed in a suit, walked briskly toward Barron's table, his face tense and his eyes resolute. "Excuse me," he said, his voice loud enough to attract attention. "We have a policy against political apparel here. I'm going to have to ask you to remove your hat." Barron looked up, surprised but unshaken. He removed his earbuds and placed them on the table. "I wasn't aware of that policy," he replied, his voice calm, clear, but firm. "It's listed in our rules," the manager emphasized, vaguely gesturing toward the entrance. "We want this to be a neutral space for all customers." Barron tilted his head, as if considering it. He looked around, some guests pretending not to notice, while others openly watched. "I don't want to cause trouble," he said evenly. "I just came to have lunch." The manager stood taller, his voice firmer now. "You need to take off the hat, or I'll have to ask you to leave." Barron paused for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then he nodded slightly, pushed his chair back, and stood up. "If you feel that's the right thing to do," he said quietly, "then I'll leave." The atmosphere in the restaurant felt compressed. Everyone fell silent, watching every move he made. Barron gathered his belongings, leaving his untouched glass of water behind, and walked out without saying another word. The door clicked shut softly, but the tension lingered in the air. Outside, Barron paused for a moment, letting the warm California breeze brush against his face. He adjusted his hat, as if to affirm his decision, and took a deep breath. He wasn't angry, perhaps disappointed, but above all, he felt sad. He had always been taught to treat others with kindness, even when there was disagreement, and this felt like a betrayal of that principle. Inside the restaurant, whispers began to spread. A server muttered to the manager, "Do you really think that was the right call? That was him?" The manager waved his hand dismissively. "We can't make exceptions. Letting him stay would send the wrong message. This is my restaurant, and I'll run it my way." Meanwhile, Barron walked a short distance to a nearby park. He sat on an empty bench, took out his phone, and began texting, first to his mother, then to a few close friends. He wasn't seeking sympathy, just clarity. Did he overreact, or had the manager done the right thing? Within minutes, responses flooded in. One friend texted, "Asterisk, that's insane. They shouldn't have treated you like that." Asterisk, another added, "You handled the situation much better than I would have." As Barron read through the messages, an idea flashed in his mind. He didn't want to retaliate or make a spectacle of it. Instead, he saw an opportunity, something constructive, meaningful. Barron stood up, his eyes alight with determination, and started making calls, his voice steady but purposeful. "I need help with something," he said into the phone. Back at the restaurant, The atmosphere grew even heavier as news of the incident spread across social media. Diners who had been there shared the story, accompanied by blurry photos of Barron being asked to leave. One post read, "They kicked out Barron Trump just for wearing a hat." Another sarcastically added, "Freedom of speech doesn't exist at Harborview Bistro." The restaurant manager, scrolling through his phone at the bar, began to feel a rising sense of dread. The comments were flooding in, and not all of them were supportive. "Let them talk," he muttered to himself, trying to suppress the growing pang of regret. Deep down, though, he knew the situation was spiraling beyond his control. By the time Barron arrived home, the incident had become a hot topic online. Several local influencers had shared the story, eliciting a mix of supportive and critical responses. Barron skimmed through the posts, remaining largely unbothered. He wasn't interested in stoking further conflict or division. Sitting at his desk, Barron opened a small leather notebook and jotted down a few notes. He reflected on the day's interactions, not just with the manager, but also with the silent stares and the unspoken judgments. Barron Trump sat alone, his eyes narrowing slightly as he focused, his fingers gliding over his phone screen. He wasn't searching for revenge, but a way to turn this discord into meaningful dialogue. An idea struck him like lightning, a public fundraiser. But this wouldn't be just any event. It needed a unifying message, clear and unmistakable. Barron picked up his phone, gripping it tightly as if pouring all his resolve into the call. "Hello, this is Barron Trump. I need advice on organizing a charity event." "Yes, it's urgent. Can we meet tomorrow?" On the other end, the voice, tinged with surprise, quickly agreed. As the evening progressed, Barron's plan began to take shape. He sat at his desk, his pen moving swiftly across the page, the veins in his temple pulsing visibly. He decided to host the event right outside Harborview Bistro, the scene of yesterday's controversy. This location would emphasize his message. Even in a place of conflict, unity could emerge. A close friend agreed to assist with logistics, and within hours, the plan was in motion. At the restaurant, tension hung thick in the air. The manager, his shoulders stiffened in an attempt to appear confident, couldn't stop glancing at his phone. His decision was no longer a private matter. It had become a public debate. His hands trembled slightly as he scrolled through the social media comments, some supportive, others harshly critical. One remark made him pause. Asterisk, neutrality isn't kicking someone out. It's taking a side. Asterisk. The next morning, the street in front of Harborview Bistro began to transform. Trucks unloaded equipment, and volunteers busily set up tables and banners. Barron stood amidst the bustling scene, his eyes keenly observing every detail. A large banner was raised, boldly proclaiming, "United we stand, building bridges, not walls." Barron meticulously oversaw every aspect, his hands clenched as he issued instructions. The organizations he had contacted the night before showed up, setting up booths on community building, youth mentorship, and fostering dialogue. This event wasn't just about fundraising. It was about creating a space where people from all walks of life could come together. Inside the restaurant, the manager stood frozen by the window, his gaze locked on the growing crowd outside. His chest tightened as he watched the event unfold. The live music, food stalls, and lively conversations outside were a stark contrast to the heavy atmosphere inside. A server cautiously approached him. "You should go out there and talk to him," the server suggested, her voice careful. The manager stiffened, his jaw tightening. "This isn't my business." "Maybe not," she replied, her tone measured, "but it might just be your chance." The fundraiser quickly became the city's focal point. Social media buzzed with live streams, photos, and hashtags like #BuildingBridges and #UnitedWeStand. Posts praised Barron's meaningful response and the positive message he championed. Standing on the makeshift stage, Barron held the microphone, his gaze sweeping over the crowd. He took a deep breath before speaking, his voice steady and brimming with emotion. "Yesterday, I was asked to leave this restaurant because of a hat. That's okay. I respect their policy, even if I don't agree with it. But what troubled me wasn't just that. It was the bigger picture. We've become too quick to judge each other, too eager to take sides, too ready to shut down dialogue. That's not who we are. We can do better." The applause was thundering. Barron continued, "This event isn't about me or them. It's about all of us, finding ways to listen, to understand, and to move forward together." He stepped down from the stage, offering a warm smile as he shook hands and thanked each attendee. Inside Harborview Bistro, the silence was almost palpable. Tables that were once fully booked now sat empty. The manager, seated in his office, rested his chin on his hand, his eyes fixed on a glass of water on his desk. The sounds of the event outside echoed faintly, stirring something unfamiliar within him, a sense of change, not just in the crowd but within himself. At his desk, his eyes fell on the computer screen where dozens of emails awaited. His fingers trembled slightly as he scrolled through the subject lines: complaints from customers, cancellations, and scathing critiques from local newspapers. One email stood out. It was from a regular customer, a loyal supporter of the restaurant. If you want more content on this, please hit a like button and subscribe for daily new interesting stories. Goodbye.